morning and the webinar here regarding the Master of Marine Sciences in Utrecht University. My name is Appie Sluis. I'm a professor of paleoceanography, and this is...
Hi, I'm Angelina, and I'm a second year student of the Marine Sciences Master at Utrecht.
So what we'll do here is we'll do a quick introduction, about 15 minutes, perhaps 20 minutes, about the master's program, and then we'll do a Q&A. So you're very welcome to put in your questions. You've probably already met Ilya online in the chat, and so he's ready to answer all of your questions during the talk even. And some of the questions we'll transfer to this room here, where we'll answer them live. And so that's about the plan. If there's any questions or any issues, please put them on the chat box. If there are any problems you experience in this in the webinar, please do type them into your chat box, and we'll try to help you as soon as possible. So what I'll do here is I'll quickly start with introducing the Masters of Marine Sciences. You see already a turtle. Probably there won't be too many turtles in the Marine Sciences Masters, but it's just a nice picture. So I've already introduced most of us here, myself, Angelina, and also Ilya in the chat box. Let's see if there's anything else I need to tell you here. I don't think so. So the main goal here of the Marine Sciences program at Utrecht University is to gain a fundamental understanding of the functioning of seas and oceans, and ultimately to contribute to sustainable use of oceans and sustainable interaction between people and the oceans. And we typically have a diverse community of students. People come from all over the world. I think currently about 30% of the students that are enrolled in the program come from different countries in the Netherlands. And so that's a good thing. It will be quite international. It's a multidisciplinary approach that we have here, so we're including multiple subjects in your master's program. It's a 2-year program. Essentially, 1 year is going to be courses and 1 year is full-time research. And you can start every September in your master's program, so the next enrollment is in September 2018. So this is one of the major motivations for us to start this Marine Sciences program a couple of years ago. There's large increases in greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere, particularly CO2. That's causing warming of the ocean, and about 93% of the extra warming that we've generated as humans has gone into the ocean, stored into the ocean. So the oceans have warmed. And also the CO2 itself dissolves in ocean water, and that causes acidification of oceans. And you can see that in the data published, also summarized by the IPCC, in the right lower corner of your screen, showing the drop in pH as the increase in CO2 concentrations happen in seawater. And also directly and indirectly, the anthropogenic change causes increasingly deoxygenation, so a drop in oxygen concentrations of ocean water, causing anoxic conditions in seawater, particularly in the lower levels of the ocean. And all of these three have an influence on whatever is living in the oceans. And so the ultimate challenge here is to figure out, okay, how is this going to change biology and ocean systems as a whole in the future? Particularly ecosystems are going to be affected, perhaps biodiversity is affected, but certainly also climate is affected, and in turn climate affects the ocean as the ocean is changing. And obviously also all of these changes have effect on biogeochemical cycles, nutrient cycles for example, and that's going to have direct effect on us, for example through fish stocks. So the trillion-dollar question really is here, how will the oceans function in the future, and how fast will the changes towards the future functioning of the oceans go? And now we're dependent on the ocean as humans. We're gaining lots of natural resources from the oceans, oil and gas obviously, but also minerals. Those are some of the newest developments, is that the deep sea is going to be mined by companies for particularly rare earth elements, and to have your phones function, for example. And also directly the economy depends on the ocean. 20% of all jobs in the Western world are directly related to the seas and oceans. And 66% of the people actually live within a range of 100 kilometers of seas and oceans. And we depend on oceans because of transport, food, pharmaceutical products, recreation, all kinds of things. So our impact on the ocean is clear, but also our dependence on the oceans as they are now is clear. And so in society we therefore need people with fundamental multidisciplinary visions on marine change going on currently, and we need academic capabilities for top-level in-depth research, but also to solve outstanding challenges regarding seas and oceans in research, but also in the real world, where people need to make decisions on how we deal with oceans and how we make them as sustainable as possible. So this is why a couple of years ago we decided to join forces. I'm a geoscientist, but by origin I'm a biology major. I think you're a biologist too?
Yes, exactly. I also have a background in biology. Yes.
Yeah, and so but in the master's program and also in the courses that you will do, we have chemists and physicists, but also people that are specialists on oceans law and policy. And so we decided to combine these forces. And the master's program has been running since a couple of years now, I think since 2014. And so and I think it's been quite successful in trying to get people on the same page coming from all these different fields. I think that's important. And so because I'm just a paleoceanographer with a biology background, I don't know everything. And this is why I'm the formal sort of program leader of this master's program. But we have thematic coordinators within the program for all specialties. So which means we have Katja Philippart coordinating the biology research and teaching. We have Caroline Slomp, who is doing the chemistry part. Henk Dijkstra, who is coordinating the physics part. And furthermore, regarding physics, we have Huip de Zwart. And also regarding physical geography, we have Gerben Ruzie. And the professor of Oceans Law and Policy is Alex Oude-Elverink, who is also teaching in the master's program. Now, this is the general outline of the master's program. So in Europe, we work with a program that has 2 years, which has 120 credit points. So this is a transfer system within Europe. And so there's 2 courses that are compulsory. So those are the Introduction to Marine Sciences course, which is right at the beginning of the master's program, and also the course Oceans Law and Policy. And so perhaps you want to say something about those courses.
So the first course, Introduction to Marine Sciences, I think that's very important because you have that in the first period. And then it tries basically to bring everybody to a similar level because we have so many different backgrounds and people who have studied different things. And you get a really good basis for everything in that course. And then the Ocean Law and Policy course, I think that one was really, really interesting because I personally had never had any law in my education before. And it really also teaches you to see things from the perspective of policymakers, which I think is very, very important if you want to have an effective influence on what is happening with our oceans. So in that course, we even did, for example, some role plays where we also had to play the role of the policymakers. And I think almost all of us said in the end, wow, we didn't think that we could really imagine us being policymakers as well. So it really broadened our horizon also.
So yeah, so that's sort of a little bit out of the odds with the regular sort of natural science part of the master's program. But we think we're of the opinion that a connection to this law and policy component is really important for people coming out of a major master's program like this. So those are the 2 important the 2 obligatory courses, and then for the rest, in total, you have to have 45 credit points in courses. All of the courses that we offer are 7.5 credit points, which means that you need to do at least 4 more courses in the master's program. And those, we force you to teach yourself multidisciplinary, which means that 3 out of those 4 courses have to come out of different basic subjects: biology, chemistry, physics, and the earth sciences. And that's important. Now you can do additional courses, and for that you will use the electives, and those are in the blue box here. Those are 15 credit points, so you could take extra courses, but you can also increase the duration and volume of your research projects, which are in the lower 2 boxes. The purple box indicates the major research project, and that's a larger project, so typically half a year to 9 months, or if you want to increase the size even, can go towards a year. And there's also a minor research project, but it can also be a traineeship at a company or a guided research with one of the professors inside the university or outside of the university. It's important to note that the research you can do within Utrecht universities, but we have a very strong connection to the Netherlands Research Institute, the Sea Research Institute, the NEOS, and they also offer lots of research opportunities. And so typically lots of people go there for at least one of them, their research projects.
For example, me.
For example, Angelina, who's currently at the NEOS. Just to indicate perhaps a little bit of the courses, you probably won't be able to read this fully unless you have a really big screen. These are the courses that we offer within the program at Utrecht University only. And what you see here on the top are the two obligatory courses in green. In blue here are the physics courses. And some of these courses are really expert, or you need a lot of expertise in the physics already to roll into these courses. But one of the courses is a course we specifically designed for this program, which is essentially a physics course for dummies, so it's for people that don't have a really big physics background yet. And so essentially this is a sort of a lower level introduction course in the physical oceanography. Then in red you see the earth sciences courses, which encompasses the physical geography but also the paleoceanography subjects. In purple you see the chemistry courses, which include both inorganic and organic chemistry courses for the ocean. And in the lower green you see courses that we offer in biology. I have to note that these courses can be complemented with courses at other universities where we closely collaborate, particularly in the biology. You can also take courses at other universities in the country that we closely collaborate with. Also in gray here you see another multidisciplinary course which is offered by the NEOS at the NEOS, and that also includes, for example, ship time and all kinds of laboratory experiments regarding biology, physics, chemistry, and sediment paleoceanography. So why would you come to Utrecht for a master's program? First of all, if you look at the staff, at the professor staff here, it's really quite a high level on all these different subjects, from biology to the earth sciences and chemistry, physics. So there's really lots of opportunities to engage in ongoing top-level research. And that's because we have a very large research focus at this university, and we want to involve students, particularly master students, in that research that's going on. We're one of the few universities in the world that can offer such a multidisciplinary character of the master's program, and that gives you lots of flexibility to choose from both cursory and also research in your master's program. Our facilities, particularly regarding labs, are state-of-the-art, and we have a very large international network. So as I said already, you can collaborate within the Netherlands at different universities, but all of the professors here at the university have really big international networks, including in the United States, but also multiple countries in Europe and Asia and Australia. So there's lots of opportunities here to really get to the top during your master's program. Just a little bit of an example on how we involve multidisciplinarity in our master's program. This is just one of our projects that I currently carry out. And as a sort of an intermediate between a biologist and a paleoceanographer, I was interested to see how current ocean acidification affects dinoflagellates, which are unicellular organisms in the ocean. So what we do here is we culture, we put on controlled growth experiments with particular various species of dinoflagellates, and we culture them at various CO2 concentrations to examine how they respond physiologically to the changes in carbonate chemistry. And also what we do as an indicator of the physiological response is we measure the changes in isotope ratios as a function of CO2. And so particularly carbon isotopes, the ratio between stable carbon isotopes of 13 and 12 carbon. And the cool thing about this is the dinoflagellates are not just swimming in the ocean, but as part of their life cycle they produce sort of a plastic bag around themselves, and they sink to the sea floor as a sedimentary particle. And one thing that will be interesting is to see if there is actually an imprint of the isotope response to changes in carbonate chemistry, CO2 concentration, in that dinoflagellate cyst that ultimately gets preserved in the geological record. And so if we go to the geological record and take a drill core, for example, in the sediment floor, we take the cysts out of the sediment floor and measure the carbon isotope ratios, and that will ultimately be an indicator of past CO2 concentrations. And so you immediately see that you need the biology for this project, you need the chemistry to measure these things, but you also need the sort of the geological aspects here of the ocean to actually date the sediment and interpret the results in the geological timescale. And so, so particularly in the ocean, this multidisciplinarity is hard to avoid, So if you want to be a successful scholar in the marine sciences, you really need to know all of these aspects of the marine sciences: the biology, the chemistry, the physics, and the earth sciences. Now, obviously, some of you are interested in a career after your master's program. So the experience has seen over the past couple of years that many people, probably like 50 or 60% that come out of a master's program, go on to do a PhD in academia. So at Utrecht University, but people actually go elsewhere a lot. So people have ended up in the States, in Australia, and other countries in Europe for a PhD program. But also, after your master's program, you're quite attractive to companies to be hired. So we have alumni now who work at major companies such as Van Oort or Boskalis, which are sort of international, multinational companies within the marine engineering programs. Particularly the Netherlands have a strong background in that, obviously, because we sort of are known for building islands in the ocean where nobody else can do that. And so lots of people have ended up there. So many the companies are also responsible for some of the ecological changes that are directly a consequence of such engineering programs. So they also need lots of biologists to actually assess the risk of ecological change as a result of anthropogenic activities in marine basins. So also there's lots of sort of public-private institutes. For example, people have ended up at geological surveys or national research institutes, such as in the Netherlands, the Deltaris or TNO, but also people have ended up in institutes abroad. And there's also the public sector, obviously governmental institutions, the United Nations. And in that perspective, it's interesting to look at what Europe is doing right now. There's in sort of the innovation agenda of Europe, the ocean and seas play a really large role. Essentially, the focus, because land is essentially done. We've made everything of land that we possibly can. But now the ocean is next, and so there's lots of research investments currently going on in Europe now to see how we can do that in a sustainable way, at least as sustainable as possible. So the European Union is investing hundreds of millions of euros annually to make this research possible. And so this so-called blue growth economy is expected to grow by 7 million people employed by 2020. And so there's lots of opportunities there. So, and for this, they're going to need good people with a solid multidisciplinary background and actually know what research is. And so, so the calls that are being put out in the European system include observation systems, things related to marine pollution, such as plastics, but also climate change impacts and things like aquaculture that are being developed more and more in European waters, in global waters actually. Admission requirements. Essentially, the program is open to students with all kinds of different bachelor's degrees, but typically this is a natural sciences bachelor degree or a university college bachelor degree that is focused on the natural sciences. Typically, we ask that at least some of the courses that you've taken have been taken in the realm of marine sciences. But if you're sort of on the edge, please don't hesitate to contact us if you're admissible, and we'll take a look at your file and we'll be happy to advise. But clearly also you need motivation and talent for this, and so we ask for motivated and talented students like Angelina to enroll. So let's see. Perhaps something about the deadlines for subscribing. If you're not from Europe, you need to subscribe before April 1st. So you have some time left. But if you can actually be considered also for scholarships. So take a look at the website, and we'll put out the information to you by email. You've subscribed, and so we'll be able to reach you. And the complete admission is actually quite easy to do completely online. So if you apply early, we'll let you know within a couple of weeks if you're accepted. So that's a big advantage. If there's any more questions related to the logistics, please don't hesitate to let me know. Also in terms of the content. But first, let's go to Angelina and have her tell the story of her master's program so far. So please, yeah. Angelina.
So as I mentioned already, I'm in my second year now in the Marine Sciences Master. And I come originally from Austria, where I also finished my bachelor's degree in biology. And then I first went to Australia for 1 semester and started the marine biology master there, but decided that I would like to come back to Europe. And I still remember, it's a bit more than a year ago now, that I looked for different possibilities within Europe and marine biology masters in the beginning, mainly within Europe. And then I stumbled upon the webpage of this marine sciences master in Utrecht, and I immediately thought, oh, that sounds really interesting because it's marine sciences and not marine biology. And I haven't even thought of that possibility before, that I could actually also do something more multidisciplinary. And then I read the courses that they offer, and I thought that was a really good approach and that it's really necessary to have this multidisciplinary approach. And yeah, here it's also really important that we also have this ocean law and policy course, as I've already mentioned, because you just learn to also work together with policymakers and you also understand their point of view better. And it's also very, very good here that we have a huge diversity of students with a lot of different backgrounds. So we can also teach each other a lot. So I think in my year only there's more than 9 different nationalities, and we all have very, very different backgrounds. And in the majority of courses, group work is necessary, which sometimes honestly can be a challenge because they all have just so different backgrounds and also different cultures that we're coming from. But I also think it was the part that I liked the most about all the courses, because we could just learn that so much from each other, and we all got really good friends. And for example, in my year, all of the students have a WhatsApp group together, and we also still, now that we're in our 2nd year, we still message and we still meet, and we all are really close friends. And I'm now at the NIOS in North. It's in Texel, which is an island in the north of the Netherlands. And here in the 3 pictures, you can see on the left that's me in Australia, how I found a foraminifera on the beach. And then in the middle and on the right, those are 2 pictures that I took myself during my master thesis. So I'm working on the calcification of foraminifera. They are also unicellular organisms, of which many build a calcium carbonate shell. And in the middle, you can see a foraminifera that reproduced asexually. And on the right, you can see one under the fluorescent microscope. And the new chambers that they build are in green. And basically here, it's also very interesting that I need this multidisciplinary approach, because as I said before, my background is in biology. But then when I came here, I also thought in the beginning, oh, I'll do a lot of biology courses. But then I actually figured out that I really like paleoceanography as well. And in the end, I did a lot of paleoceanography courses and not biology courses as I thought initially. But so now I have this big background in biology because I did my bachelor's in biology. But I'm also kind of an expert now, or getting an expert, I hope at least, in paleoceanography. And I have to say, sometimes it was a bit tough in the beginning because, of course, the courses are on the level of the master. But if you just talk to the other students and your study colleagues, they're really helpful. And a lot of them have backgrounds in earth sciences, for example. And then you just help each other out. So when they decided to do more biology courses, I helped them with biology and they helped me with the more paleoceanography courses. And also it's important to just try to catch up on the background you're missing, but I think that's something really valuable. And yeah, now also that I'm doing my master thesis at the NIOS, I'm combining those 2 different disciplines, and I will also go next year for 5 weeks to Curaçao, where I will also sample planktonic foraminifera by scuba diving, so that's an amazing opportunity. And yeah, so if you feel now, like I did in the beginning, that this sounds like something you think is really useful for you and that's a really good approach, then I'm sure you won't regret your choice. And if you have any further questions in the end, feel free to ask.
All right, great. So please, we're going towards the Q&A part of the session. Please don't write down your questions in the chat box so we can assess those. There's a couple of questions that have already come in. One of them is, here's one coming in by Lauren. Hi Angelina, thank you for sharing your story. I'm just curious, since I'm also looking into Australia, why did you leave Australia after a month?
So I didn't leave after a month. I actually finished the first, 1 whole semester of the marine biology master in Australia. And I really liked the master, I enjoyed it, but it was very much focused on tropical coral reefs, which is not necessarily bad, but I just thought that I would prefer to have a broader master where I can also combine different disciplines and don't just really focus on one aspect of of this big issue that there is with the oceans right now. And I just wanted to come back to Europe also, because I realized also how far Australia actually is away. But then also I just thought I want something that's more multidisciplinary and broader, which I got with this master.
Yeah, so one of the other questions that came on is, what are the options for traveling abroad for the master's program? So there are plenty of options. So some of the students actually go abroad for courses already at different universities in Europe. But most of the travel that's being done by students is with one of the research projects. So typically what happens is that students do their first major research program at Utrecht University or at the NEOS. But typically, or I think 50 or 60% of the students choose to use the network of professors at Utrecht to do a second research project abroad. And that can be really anywhere. So people have gone anywhere over the past years to do that. And so for that perspective, there's actually quite a bit of option to go abroad, particularly for your research phase of the master's program. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's also, if I can just add to this. So I think this is also a big plus, really, that on the one hand, you do get this broad range of courses and this good basis in a lot of different disciplines, but you can also still get an expert if you would like to do that. And so you have a lot of elective courses also. And with this research, which is basically, or like with this internship, which is a whole year, that's something really special. And you can still really go into whatever you like the most. And yeah, I'm also planning to do my internship now after I finish my master thesis, either in Austria or in Switzerland. And it's really nice because there's just so many connections to Utrecht University, and it's really very simple, and they really don't make it difficult for you to also do your internship or guided research somewhere else.
Yeah, so there's sort of a question came in that's connected to the international thing. Are there options for fieldwork during the master's program? Yes, so particularly for the research phase. So as I said, we work very intensely together with the Netherlands Research Institute. They also have a research vessel. And so students actually have the opportunity to also join the research that's seagoing. That's a possibility. But also particularly if you're into into paleoceanography. So sometimes we do sample also outcrops. So for example, in Spain, there's lots of people working there. So there's options there too. And so yeah, there's lots of options for field work, both in the biology, earth science, but also the marine chemistry realms. So yeah. Absolutely.
Also with the courses themselves. So for example, I did the astronomical climate forcing course, and that was in Spain, and we were for 4 weeks in Spain. And other people also from my year did a chemistry course, and then they were in France. So there's definitely a lot of possibilities to also participate in fieldwork. Yes.
All right, there's another question. Is it very difficult to catch up with other disciplines with a background in engineering? I don't know. It's a good question. So typically for people in engineering, they probably have a pretty good background in both physics and chemistry. And so so typically what we do is we go through the file and just see if the background is sufficient to enroll into a program like this. Typically for engineering, it's pretty okay. And so people are admitted typically from engineering because they already have a sufficient background in chemistry and physics. And so that's typically not so much of a problem. If there's any more questions, please do type them down, and we'll try to answer them as good as possible. There is another one. How many international students attend the program every year? It differs a bit. So I think this year we have about 20%. Last year was a little bit more. It's probably like 40% of the students came in. Typically we have enrollment. This year I think we have an enrollment of about 30 students, so 30. And we hope the size of that program will remain about the same, perhaps 30, could be a little bit larger, because then we have sufficient time for everybody, for all the staff to spend with students, both in the courses but also in the research. And so it's a good size, and we have plenty of staff to connect to. That's also something probably, if you're from different, so Angelina already said something about that. To connect to different students, and if you're a biologist, how do you get up to the level of the chemistry, for example? So that's your fellow students, your peers are obviously very important to that, but also in the instructors themselves. And so we're now sort of getting used to the different sorts of the heterogeneous background of the people that we have in the courses. So it's easy to connect to instructors and see, okay, how it seems like my background is a little bit far compared to the course level, and so how do I get to the level required? And so perhaps the instructor will then give you some materials to catch up on particular subjects. And so that's also one of the main reasons that we took the step of making a collective marine sciences course. That's where we go into the biology, the chemistry, the physics, the law and policy, and the biology parts and the paleoceanography in one course to at least let you know and let you feel where you need more background, and then connect to the instructors and try to see if they can how you optimally do that. And so for those courses and also for those subjects, you probably have to work a little harder for the subjects that you're familiar with. So that's just what you need if you want to teach yourself multidisciplinary, which I think is necessary. That's the steps you have to take. All right, let's see if there's any more questions here. There's a question by Tom Jensma. Can you be admitted with a bachelor from a HBO university? So that's it's more of an applied university. It's possible, but it's but typically we advise a trajectory between the applied university and the master's program. So most people that subscribe to the master's program coming from an HBO background, they first enroll in 6 months of a pre-master program where we collect specifically for your background 3 courses that complement your background, and then also you do sort of a literature thesis, a bachelor thesis essentially on the level of the master's, so that you sort of connect to the level that you need to have to get into the master's program. So that's most often what happens with people that sign up from a applied university background. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Let's do sort of the last question here. Do you have any tips for the application? Yeah, the tips are that what I would need to know to see if you get admitted is I need to know sort of the marine component in your bachelor thesis, in your bachelor program. That's important for me to know to see if you have a sufficient background. And write an engaging motivation letter. So why do you really want to go into this master's program, a natural sciences, fundamental sciences program, and why do you want to do that? Oh, there's another question here. Can you tell something about a double master with climate physics? Yes, I could do that. People have actually done that, so they get into both the climate physics and the marine sciences program. Obviously, you need to have the final terms for both of these master's programs, but some things can be combined. So people that have done it are typically done with their master's can be done with their master's program in 2.5 years, something like that. It's possible to do that. And so yes, it's possible to do that. And then typically you would come from a physics background, obviously. You take the physics courses in the master's program, but also for teaching yourself multidisciplinary, you typically also do perhaps a chemistry and a biology course, or a neurosciences and a biology course, to at least get the multidisciplinary focus in there. And preferably, during your research, you also connect the physics with other components of the system. So either biology, chemistry, or neuroscience, and that's very well possible. Yeah. So I see here that you're still typing. So let's do one more question here. Here, Amalia. Can I be admitted with a bachelor in mathematics? Yes, that's in principle possible, but also there, you typically want to engage, perhaps in your motivation letter, why the marine sciences are interesting to you. But typically with a mathematical background, you will be able to enroll, but particularly during the first few courses, you will need to catch up on some of the other subjects, but that's possible, absolutely. What's the percentage of self-study during the courses? Perhaps you want to say something about that?
Yeah, so I think it's really high here, also compared to my bachelor's and compared to the semester that I did in Australia. So you really do have to be motivated, and it's also a lot of group work, as I've mentioned before, where you have to meet your study colleagues and you have to work together on problems and tasks that you get. So maybe in percentage it's a bit difficult to say, but yeah, if I would make a guess, maybe 50%.
Yes,
I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is quite high, and you really have to keep on track yourself. And it's also a master where you have to do and to work on the courses the whole time. So it's not like you go to a course and then in the end you study for the exam and that's it. You also in between have to hand in things. You have assignments every now and then. You also often have exercises, so it's also very hands-on, and you have to do a lot. Yes.
Yeah. So typically, in the courses differ a bit. So we obviously it's important to get the content, but also the actual things you need to be able to do. So practically, so there's lots of exercises on presentations, handing reports in that you get feedback on. So academic writing, presentation, those are skills that we practice with you, so that you improve on those skills as well, which is important. All right, so let's end this session. Thank you very much for joining. You will receive an email with a recording and a link to the survey. And please do ask your questions by email if you have additional questions. Those are the email address you can use. Just reply on the link you will receive. Please also fill out the survey, since we would love to hear your feedback on this particular session. And with that, I'd like to end the session. Enjoy your day, and I hope to see you again probably next year, hopefully by September in the master's program. Thank you.
Bye.